Casey was like, hey, shit, like 3 years ago, you would have gotten called into the radio room and you would have had to discuss the feud on the spot with the person you're feuding with. It's Tuesday, March 28th. This is episode 270. This is the Token CEO podcast. I'm Erika. I am the CEO of Barstool Sports. Before we get into it, let's say thank you to Omega Accounting Solutions. The deadline to file for your employee retention credit is ending very soon. It's March 31st when the window starts to close. So if you employed people during COVID, you are eligible to get up to $26,000 back from the federal government for keeping those people employed. But the trick is you probably need to have somebody help you navigate that. You need to make a phone call or go to omegataxcredits.com/barstoolsports. /barstoolsports is important. Go to omegataxcredits.com/barstoolsports and you can learn more. What's great about Omega Accounting Solutions is that they are accounting experts. They've got all sorts of products, all sorts of tools, all sorts of really smart people who help small businesses. And they are experts on the ERC. So act now. Call Omega Accounting Solutions at 1-855-505-DAVE. That's 855-505-DAVE. Or go to omegataxcredits.com/barstoolsports and learn more now. Super quick, super easy, and you can find out if you are able to get money back from the government for employing people during COVID. All right, so what's going on around here? It's Tuesday. We've got a bunch of Penn people in the building. I'm hearing from Erika. Erika now runs my life, which is actually great. I show up at work and there's like a hair and makeup artist in here. So I'm appreciative of that. Erika informed me today that there's like a big finance meeting with the Penn people and the Penn lawyers are here, which just makes me go, ooh. But here we are. It's the end of Q1, so we're in our last week in Q1. Fired up to close the quarter. Read a lot last night about the ESPN and Disney layoffs that are coming, which is a bummer. Bob Iger announced, I think yesterday, that Disney is going to lay off up to 7,000 people, maybe more, and that there's several rounds of layoffs coming. That sucks. I remember having to do that at big companies, and I think the worst thing about it is not like the layoff itself, it's the impending future layoffs to come. So I'm feeling really grateful that we're in good shape and good stead here. I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff we have to fix. We have a big business meeting tomorrow to talk about that. We're going to change some of the way we're organized. We're going to change some of the way we get things done. We're going to add some new people to the mix, which I'm very excited about. I think will help us and will go a long way. But when you read something about 7,000 people having layoffs or Twitch just had layoffs, there's like all sorts of companies laying off people. We opened up a job the other day, probably 2 weeks ago, for a VP of sales, and the people coming out of the woodwork to apply for that job has been like striking. Like people who are my peers are like, hey, can I get a look at that job? And I'm like, wow, like it's just tough out there. So feeling grateful that things are under control here, feeling like we've got to get better at how we do things, and excited to figure out how we do that. So that's what's happening here on a Tuesday. Obviously, we had some inside Barstool drama last week with the Mean Girls versus Kelly Keegs. I think people have kind of like talked about that ad nauseum. I don't really think I need to get into it. It is curious, though, how Barstool has changed. I think Casey Smith put it best, where Casey had a tweet. So for anybody who doesn't pay attention to the inside Barstool stuff, Kelly Keegs kind of went at the Mean Girls. The Mean Girls responded. They were super hurt by it. And then there was like a back and forth. But Casey was like, hey, shit, like 3 years ago, you would have gotten called into the radio room and you would have had to discuss the feud on the spot with the person you're feuding with. And it made me nostalgic kind of in a weird way for simpler times where everybody just hashed stuff out. It also made me wonder how people are changing and we're changing, where people don't want to talk about stuff. Like it was interesting. I had a conversation today about a deck I want to present that's explaining the changes we're going to make to the company. And I was like, oh, just put the email from this particular client RFP, because it showed exactly the problem, which is to get one thing done at Barstool Sports, you've got to email like 500 people to get it done. We don't even have 500 people work here, but we have 500 people working on every project. And the inclination was like, well, black out all the names. And I was like, that's not Barstool. Like, we show all the names, we have all the fights, everybody has the conversation, but I'm like, maybe we're changing, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So anyways, I'm thinking about that. Before we get into Q&A, let's just talk about Oura Ring. So Oura Ring is awesome. I actually have the box on my desk if you want to see how awesome the packaging is. Like, wow, here's the Oura Ring. What's awesome about the Oura Ring is that if you don't want to wear a big, bulky fitness tracking watch, you can just wear a ring. I'll show you how easy it is. You like pop on the ring, and what's amazing about it is that it tracks all sorts of insights about your sleep, about your health, about your exercise, about your fitness levels, about your recovery. Like, it is a data machine right on your finger. It helps you understand your body better, and it can help you develop great habits for your health. During the day, what's awesome about the Oura Ring is their advanced sensor technology. They track your heart rate, your calories burned, your activity levels. At night, it monitors your temperature trends, your sleep quality, your respiratory rate, and more. The best part yet is that you get all of the data on your phone. So you can go into your Oura app and you're like, woo, I had a great night of sleep last night. Or, ooh, my recovery is really poor. Or, I burned 0 calories today, or I ate 1 million calories today. Whatever it is you want to track, the Oura Ring and the Oura app can help you do that. If you go to Oura Ring/token right now, you can get $15 off your purchase. That's Oura Ring, OURA, ring.com/token for 15% off your Oura Ring. All right, so let's get into the Q&A. Small side note, if you are listening to this or watching this, we are trying to create a Q&A only show, and we need a name for it. So if you have an idea of a good name that we should use, DM me, DM Token, send us your thoughts, leave it in the comments, you name it. We would love to hear from you. So on Q&A, first question is, I was offered a new hybrid role between 2 departments. The position doesn't currently exist. How do I get management to set expectations and move forward? Oof, this is a tough one. So hybrid roles can be awesome in that you part of the time do one thing and part of the time you do another thing. It can be an opportunity to have a huge amount of influence and a huge amount of impact and a huge amount of exposure to 2 different groups. The downside of it is you can get lost because you don't really belong in one place and you definitely don't belong in the other place. So I think the biggest thing you can do is to help force your management to recognize, hey, I'm doing 2 jobs, or my job is split in 2 places. I think what you should do is, your job and your role is not your manager's problem. It's your problem. So in this case, what I would do is I would go to your manager and I would go to key stakeholders or management, whatever, go to key stakeholders on both teams and say, hey, I'm taking on something that's never been done before. I'm so psyched for it. I'm going to crush it. We're going to do a great job with it. Here's what your expectation should be. I'm planning to spend X amount of time doing this that's going to drive Y result. I'm going to spend X amount of time doing that with Z result. Give people the chance to feedback, get their acknowledgement of like, yep, this sounds good. And then I think because you're doing 2 different things in 2 different places, the onus is going to be on you to over communicate what you're doing, how you're doing, how it's going, and the results that you're having. So take the initiative to get management to manage you the way you want to be managed. You've got to take the first step. And this is a great opportunity to do so. Okay, second question. I'm finally working for an amazing boss who's teaching me a lot, but my work for her isn't what I want to do long-term at all. I plan to look for a new job in 6 to 8 months because I'm ready to move out of the city I'm in, but I can't tell if it's worth it to look for a new role internally or stick with my great boss and leverage the work I'm doing. I think in this case, one, it's awesome to have a great boss, and it's awesome to have someone who is into you and is pushing you and mentoring you and help growing you, and someone you really like vibe with and love to work with. A great boss is one thing. If you don't really love the work you're doing, it doesn't matter how great your boss is. At some point, you're going to get sick of doing that work, and that's going to become more important than your boss. I would say regardless of whether or not you have a great boss or not, you should leverage the work experience you have to go on and take the next new thing. I would also say, I think if you want a life change or a location change or a city change, I think, and you're confident about definitively wanting to make this move, I might say that to your boss, which is, I love you. You are an incredible boss. I'm so into working for you. I've learned so much. We've done so much together, blah, blah, blah. I want to do X. Don't say that the work you're doing sucks or you're not into it or it's boring or it doesn't fulfill you. I think what I would do is to position it as, hey, I love working for you. You're incredible. I have a desire to go do this thing or live in this place or have this type of responsibility. I'm not sure I can do that in our current group and doing the work that I'm doing today. What's your advice for how I can take that next step? So long story short on this one, what I would say is great bosses are once in a lifetime or a few times in a lifetime. If you're lucky, and it sounds like you will be, and you put the effort into it, you will maintain a relationship with this great boss. Leverage that relationship, leverage the experience you're doing to find work that is fulfilling for you. Third question. I'm a manager for 2 people. I often feel like they're not performing to the standard I feel like we need to maintain for our broader team and agency. I'd like to hear your advice on how to encourage employees to improve and correct issues without dampening their spirits or seeming like I'm asking for perfection. Okay. I think the biggest thing here is if you manage 2 people and neither of whom are performing to your expectation, the problem might be you. So don't always look to the employee or look to the other person. If you're dissatisfied with how people are performing or what they're doing or the quality of their work, I think sometimes you got to take a step back and say, what is my role in this? How am I treating these employees? How am I setting up the situation? How am I conveying expectations in a way that is either getting the result you're getting today, or how could you do it differently to get a better result in the future? So in this case, what I would say is, I think I would call a meeting with your 2 employees and I would say, hey, here's my vision, right? I want a team that's able to do this. I want to achieve that. My goal is for this group to be able to do blah, blah, blah by blah, blah, blah time, right? Like set out a vision. The second thing is to say, I don't think we're delivering against it. Don't be immune yourself. You need to start with yourself and be like, I'm not doing this as well as I could. I'm falling short on this. And then I think that gives you the permission and also the vulnerability to say, and you know what? I'm not sure you guys are doing it either. So I would set a situation where you're setting up a vision for what your group can achieve. That's positive. Visions are positive. I would also be humble and I would be vulnerable in where are you falling short on this vision, and then also inclusive of where's everybody else falling short on getting to the vision. And then I would take the time to say, how can we do a better job to achieve this vision? You might say, I need to do a better job communicating expectations. These are my expectations. They might need to do a better job of communicating to you what the realities of the business are, what the challenges may be, whatever. But I think the biggest thing is to set a place you all can go together, be vulnerable and human in where you're falling short in getting there, and then be clear about the expectations and what everybody else needs to do to get where you all want to go. Okay, last question. This is a funny one. What are some red flags that your boss and or team may be losing faith in you? I mean, for me, when I lose faith in people, I tend to ignore them. Like I just tend to not invest in people when I'm starting to be like, I don't know if the work ethic is there or the brain is there or the effort is there or the commitment is there. I tend to try to preserve where I'm putting my emphasis and where I'm putting my energy, and it's usually not on those people. I think if someone's losing faith in you, you see a difference in their tone. Their tone becomes more negative. Their tone can become more sharp. Their tone can become, more about what you're not doing versus what you are doing. I think the second thing is to look to see if people are avoiding you or ignoring you. Like, is your boss or are your peers or is your manager investing as much time in you as they used to? I think the third thing is to like kind of pay attention to how people are responding to your ideas or your work product or your suggestions or just you in general. I think you need to have, decent amount of EQ to say, how are people responding to me? I think if you find that your ideas are being dismissed, if your voice isn't being heard, if your, suggestions are being shot down, I think those are also signs that people are losing faith in you. And then finally, I think when people don't come to you for advice or perspective, or when people say, I have an idea, do you think you're the first person they go to or the last person they go to or someone they never go to? Those are the things that I would look out for to see if people are losing faith in you. And then I think the next question is, what do you do about it? And, I think you've got to figure out, why are people losing faith in you? Maybe you have a conversation with them about it, and then you set about building up that faith and trust again. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening. We will see you back here on Thursday, I think with Chris Appleton. We'll see you back here on Thursday with Chris Appleton, who is very fabulous. Thank you for listening. We'll see you here. Send us suggestions. Bye.